feel like I should play music. Hello, my love.
You buff, beautiful thing, you. How are you?
Girl, look, I had to make sure I can keep up with you today.
Child, please. Please.
Yes,
You
yes.
are my daily inspiration when
Right.
I'm working out. I want you to know before we even get started that I ordered a Peloton. It's on its way. And let's just hope for the best.
I'm actually jealous, right? Because I keep saying I'm gonna get one and put it in my house, put it in my room. But I'm like, I
Yeah.
know if I get a Peloton and put it in my room, I am never gonna leave my room. So I need to just go ahead and, well, considering, now I have I'm actually what, almost a week into having been
Yeah.
tested positive for COVID.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah,
Natasha,
yeah, I
hold
tested.
on. My family knows I'm in here talking to you and they out here being so loud. Y'all hold on right there. See, this was it. Hold on.
Go get them babies.
Girl.
Yeah, so for those of y'all that have joined while CeCe is, doing her motherly duties, if you do have any questions, there is a question mark down at the bottom. Feel free to go ahead, put your question in there, and we will address it whenever we get to that part within this conversation. But so yeah, so whenever when you messaged me earlier, I was like, trust me, I completely understand. I definitely don't want this to drag out, but I wanted to make sure that I got you on because I feel like you are probably you talk about me being inspirational, right? You have been inspirational to me in more ways than one from the minute I met you way back whenever we were going to church together. So yes, for those of y'all who don't know, I used to be in church like on the regular.
Yes.
But
Yes.
but you are one of those Christians who I feel like I wish more Christians were like you and recognize that it's not about the building, but it is about doing the work. It's about exemplifying who Christ was, and that's the part that's hard for me to sit with in a building with a lot of other people. So then there's people like you who roam this earth and get their hands dirty and get upset and get mad, and don't just get upset and get mad, but actually go and do work. So before we get into it, I want, I know you have a lot of people who are going to join in who actually already know you, but for the people who follow me and listen to my podcast and my lives who don't know who CeCe is, give us a quick rundown of who CeCe is.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Tasha, thank you for not only the invitation, but really just who you are. Ever since I met you, every time I think of you, you make me smile. Like, I don't have to talk to you, but every time I think about you, because you just have that personality that just blesses people, and you're so funny all the time. And you can connect with people in such a real and authentic way. And so I'm glad that you're doing something like this because, you just have that ability to really bless people without saying bless. You're just a really special person. So thank you.
I appreciate you.
For people out there who don't know me, I am a ordained minister in the Disciples of Christ denomination. I am a wife, a mom, a singer, and a social advocate. I kind of describe myself to people, hey, Earth. I kind of describe myself to people as a person that has one voice and three expressions of that one voice. So I'm a speaker, I'm a social advocate, and I'm a singer. And it depends on the times and the need of the times that determines how God uses me in that time. You know what I mean? So, hey, Sassy. So that's kind of me, but beyond that, I'm a country girl, and I know you really identify with that.
Yeah.
I'm from rural Virginia. I'm from a plantation town. I was raised by my mama and daddy and my grandparents, and I had a really special and important village around me, that really my parents were so generous with us. They gave us the gift of a village. You know what I mean? Like, they gave us the gift of so many aunties and uncles and mentors, and that foundation has been really, really important to me. So I didn't grow up with a lot. But I grew up, hey, Chief Motivation, I did grow up with a lot of love. Yeah. I grew up with a lot of encouragement, you know, just people that just did everything, would bend over backwards for me, you know.
And I think that bled into the CeCe that I met and I fell in love with, because when I met you, there's some people who do know, some people who don't know, but I was actually at the very beginning of my third marriage, but also dealing with the fact that he had just been arrested and had been charged with first-degree murder. Right. And so I was isolated. I was by myself. Yeah. And here comes CeCe, this chick who I really don't know, but this, you know, little tiny package became my village. You know, you became that person who gave me some sense of sanity in the midst of everything that felt totally chaotic. And so that upbringing that you had just carried on into who you were as an adult, and who I met as, you know, as a Christian and as a friend and as a sister, to be that village for people, to not come bearing gifts and things in your hands to try to make things right, but coming with a heart to understand and wanting to say, okay, how do I help you? How do I keep your heart whole? How do I help keep your faith intact? And like I said, I've been in love with you since then, and I've watched you over the course of the last few years that you and I have, you know, had miles between us, but CeCe still continuing to be who she is, and me being who I am, being nosy, paying attention to everything. And I watched you become an advocate while you were out in Oklahoma. Yeah. And can you go ahead and speak on that for us?
Absolutely. And shout out to Sassy Soul. I know she's watching too. Sassy Soul is Antoinette Jones, who's the sister of Julius Jones. Yeah. And there's Dad, Anthony Jones. All right now, Dad, there he is. That's Julius Jones' father. Julius has been on death row for over 20 years. Hey, Mandy, faithful old Mandy, justice for Julius. He's been on Oklahoma's death row for over 20 years for a crime that so many of us know he did not commit. And his story came to life when Viola Davis and her husband, Julius Tennant, produced The Last Offense on ABC back in 2018. Now, it's important to say kind of how I got involved, because I have the last name Jones-Davis. And so a lot of people assume that I'm related. I'm bound to these people in the spirit at this point, but we are not like blood related. In June of 2018, I heard the Lord specifically say to me, you have something else to do here in Oklahoma, because we were thinking about moving. And I was like, well, I don't know what that is. We'll have to make it pretty clear, Lord, because, look like I could be rolling on out of here. But we decided to stay. And by August, I saw The Last Offense, a story that was produced about his life, Julius's life. And I just came undone. I just couldn't sleep. And so I hopped on the phone the next morning and tracked down Julius's attorneys that were based in Arizona. And I said, well, what can I do with this? And they said, well, you're so nice, write a letter. I was like, I did not spend all night staying up, tossing and turning, pacing the floor to write a letter, like something has to be done. And so from there, I just got busy working with Julius's family to organize the community and to organize faith leaders and to organize every other kind of person and fighting for this man's life, and so we've been at it now since The Last Offense for the last 2.5 years. Of course, his family's been at it longer than that. But God has just really helped us, man. It's been amazing to see God's grace. And it's really, for me, has been a testament and a learning experience, that when you tell God yes, not even knowing what's on the other side of that, man, let me tell you something. Some wild and crazy things can occur when you just tell God yes. And that is what I have seen. That is what I have learned in all of this. And we're not going to let a man die for something that he didn't do without giving everything that we possibly, without giving everything that we've got.
Because I'll be honest, I was totally foreign to anything about Julius. I had no idea. I had never even heard his name.
Yeah.
And I remember you posting about it on social media, and you could tell just in what you had written, you were grieved by this. Like this was it was a struggle for you. And I was like, she never said anything about a family member, because so that was what I was trying to like piece together at first. But then you mentioned something about it again, and then I went and I looked it up, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, yeah, she's not gonna let this. She's not gonna let this go. She's not gonna let it go. And watching everything transpire, you know, I know that there was a meeting a while back, and it's been across. If you Google it, it's up there, where Kim Kardashian West had gotten involved, and so where are we right now when it comes to getting justice for Julius?
Yeah, so such a good question. So back about a year and some change ago, Julius filed what we call a commutation application with the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board. And really what that means is he applied to tell them his story again, since the courts really didn't hear all that needed to be heard. He applied for a commutation, asking them to change his sentence from death to time served, right? That's the best, that's the very best outcome out of all of this. And we've heard that very soon, probably in the next couple of months, the Pardon and Parole Board will review that application. So this is a really critical time, and such an important time to be telling his story right now, Tasha. So thank you. But the Pardon and Parole Board, there's 5 members. He's got to get a majority yes vote. And if 3 of those people vote in his favor, then it moves to what we call stage 2, which is when there's a big hearing. And there'll be, you know, a few hours where Julius and his the attorneys, and then the prosecution will also be able to lay it all out. And that's when the board will vote again. And that will be determine really at that point whether Julius lives. And so we're at a critical time. So I would imagine that within the next 5-6 months, we will know what happens with Julius Jones. So just really want everybody to do a few things. Visit justiceforjulius.com. Watch The Last Offense. You can watch it there. And you know what? After The Last Offense came out, 2020 did a follow-up piece on Julius. So there's I think it's 2 hours long, hour and a half. Anyway, there's a pretty lengthy piece, 2020 piece. If you go to abc.com and go down to 2020, you can find The Last Defense as a follow-up, and you can watch that. And that's the latest kind of update, public national update. So I really encourage people to do that. Sign the petition. That's right, Mandy. Put it on in this chat. Sign the petition at the website. Call the governor and the Pardon and Parole Board. You can send a letter to them through the website. So we're just asking people to buy a T-shirt, do all kinds of things through that website to show support. Take to social media, follow his accounts on social media. It's at Justice for Julius. And so we're at a critical time. So it's really important that people pay attention.
And I'm glad you're actually bringing up all of these things, because this is, you know, one of my gripes when it comes to, you know, Christianity is people want to say, well, let's pray about it. Let's pray about it. But you got to put action behind those prayers. Like, I mean, and I'm not saying that, you know, amazing things cannot happen through prayer, right? Because money can't fall out the sky through prayer. I've seen people pray and pray for certain things and it happens, but we know that these efforts that y'all are going through are not free, right? Like, this is taking work, this is taking manpower. So the people who are listening, the people who are paying attention, go to the website and get engaged, research, do your own homework, and learn as much as you possibly can. And if you feel so inclined, you know, lend whatever resources it is that you possibly have to help them make sure that, you know, Julius does not die, you know, for something that he didn't do. So I'm glad you brought that part up, because it's beyond just, you know, just hiding out and saying a simple prayer and wishing for the best, but be his hands and feet.
And that's really been a big thing for me, you know, a word about prayer. You know, prayer, I believe, it moves the hand that moves the world. I believe that prayer is extremely important. And that's why before Julius's case even blew up to what it is now, I had a core group of women. We would pray at 5 a.m. every Tuesday morning, just about this. That's all we prayed about for the last 2 years, is this, every Tuesday, 5 a.m. So prayer has been very foundational. There's a prayer call happening tonight. There's that people can join. So prayer has been extremely foundational, but we cannot fall victim to a just pray theology. We cannot be the kind of people who say, well, I'll pray about it, because just that we'll pray about it, because a lot of times what we use that as an excuse to not do anything.
To keep our hands off.
I'll pray about it as an avoidance mechanism. And that is not how prayer is supposed to operate. Prayer is supposed to saturate the soil that we are to toil. Okay? We cannot sit around here talking about just pray. If we were to just pray, if African American people were just going to pray back in the 50s, the 60s, the 40s, if we were just praying, there is no way in the world we would have the policies that we have today that gives us the right to vote, that gives us the right to just live, the right to our own humanity.
Yes.
And so it's very important that we have this in place. And I need somebody to put that in the chat, because I said something that I'm going to need to remember. And Lord, what did I say? I think I said prayer. What did I say, Tasha?
What, prayer moves the hands that do the work? Or
no, prayer moves the hands that moves the world. But come on here, Sunshine Speaks. Prayer saturates the soil that we are to toil. Come on here, Sunshine Speaks.
She got your back.
Come on. Yes, Lord. And so that is the truth for me. That is the absolute truth. And I have been so weary of hearing people say, I'll pray. But there's a balance here, because prayer is important. It's just that prayer can't be the only thing that we do. That's all.
I'm not going to say it as nicely. I feel like, you know, a lot of times people use prayer as a scapegoat.
Yes, it's
a cop out.
Remember the truth. You're right.
It's a cop out, you know, because I've been that person who sat on the other side and is like, okay, I understand you're praying, but I'm alone. I am alone. I feel abandoned right now. Like, this was literally me walking into a church all the time, and everybody's telling me, oh, we're praying on it. And meanwhile, you know, I have countless journal entries where I'm just like, today I have never ever felt so isolated in a room full of hundreds of people, standing on stage looking at hundreds of people, and I felt like it was just me and Jesus.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because everybody else is like, we're going to pray about it, because they really didn't want to engage. They didn't want to interact with the possibilities of what may or may not have been, right? Mm-hmm. So what may or may not have been with him, this is true, right? You might not want to deal with that, but I am a human. I am a woman who is standing here hurt and broken and alone. And I need more than just you to go off in your prayer closet and
Yes.
and look out for me. I need you to be here, to talk to me, to, you know, make me laugh. Like, I'm
Yes.
tired of being on shucking and jiving, making y'all laugh.
I know.
Like,
I know
give
you're
me
tired,
some
girl. I know
jokes,
you're tired.
right? So I vehemently detest when people make that statement, but with you, I don't mind that statement, because I know prayer is not just prayer for you. Prayer is where you sort things out and you figure out, okay, in my prayer time, now what do I have to do once I've taken this quiet time?
Right.
You know,
Right.
to figure out what's next. So I love the fact that you are, you know, speaking out, and beyond Julius, you continue to speak out, even when it comes to politics. These last couple of years, not only has it been big for you, you know, aligning yourself with Julius's family and working alongside them for his freedom, but also making sure that you speak up whenever it comes to social injustices, period. Like, that's a period at the end of that statement. It's not, you know, well, if it's dealing with somebody who is a Christian, if it's dealing with someone who is Black, if it's dealing with someone, you know, a mother, like, you continue to speak up. And I'm wondering how you manage the, this is me. I don't know how to sugarcoat stuff. Whenever you have a Christian body that continues to be almost, you know, in the crosshairs of, why are we not doing anything? You have all of these, you know, Black Lives Matter against, you know, MAGA, and the Christian church right in the middle, and, you know, kind of sitting quietly and not really doing anything. And I want to know, how does that impact you as a believer and as a social activist? How do you balance that out?
Yeah. It's been really, really frustrating. If anybody knows me, if anybody follows me on social media, you guys know that it's been like fire shoved in my bones. I have not been able to keep myself quiet. These last, 4 years, it has been insane. And it has been important to me that even, I mean, who am I? But it has been important to me to go down, to be recorded as a person who stood up and said something when children were separated at the border, when gays and transgenders were banned in the military, et cetera, et cetera. And that is me being, that for me, that is being a Christian. You know what I mean? That is being a Christian. Jesus, I always find Jesus standing on the side of the marginalized. I always find Jesus standing on the side of the oppressed. And coming from a people group who have been so marginalized and so oppressed in this country, there has been absolutely no way, and as a follower of Christ on top of that, there's no way that I could keep my mouth shut. And there's no way that I can impose on other people, no matter what I feel, think, believe, irrelevant. I'm not going to impose in any way oppression on any group of people. I don't care if they're purple. I don't care how many eyes they've got. I don't care if they got a elbow growing out the middle of the forehead. I am not going to stand aside and watch another group of people be oppressed, be belittled, be treated in a way that dehumanizes, devalues, and makes them feel like they are not made in the image of God. No, 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 no. I'm not going to do that. And so now my brand of Christianity, I will say, is not everybody's. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be invited to speak at everybody's church. That's for sure. You know what I mean? And that's totally okay. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Everybody's not my cup of tea. My responsibility is to follow Christ to the margins. My responsibility is to do my best to be a Christian witness. And if you don't like what that looks like, God help us all. You know what I mean? And Jesus will work it out among us when we get to glory. I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to sit here arguing with people. Time is too critical. People's lives are in danger in all kinds of ways. And so I just, as a Christian, as a Black woman, I haven't been able to sit still. I have not been able to keep my mouth shut. Because even if it's a Facebook post, I want it documented here on this side of heaven. That CeCe Jones was not in faith. Jones-Davis was not in favor of this foolishness.
Yes.
That's been very important. I want my kids to be able to go back to my Facebook account and say, my mama said something about that. You know?
Like, look, the memory popped up.
Yes.
I said something.
Exactly.
I spoke out.
Right. So I might not make it to the history books, but doggone it, y'all can go back through, scroll through and see what I thought about different things, you know?
And I feel like that's, that is what is actually harming the church more than anything, is this desire to save face with certain human beings, right? Yeah. And when I say certain human beings, I'm talking about certain interest groups. Whatever those interest groups are, they're so focused on those individual, maintaining those individual bodies that sit in seats in a church, yeah, and maintaining a certain status within a community, versus actually remembering why you exist to begin with. Right. You're here not to appease man, yeah, but to appease Christ. Right.
And let me say something about that. I was raised in the Black church, but since I was like 14, 15 years old, up until my young adult life, a lot of my spiritual formation happened in white evangelical space. And so I talk about white evangelicalism not as an outsider. You know what I mean? I talk about it as somebody who's been very, very informed, blessed and cursed by the institution, in a lot of ways. What has happened to the American church, first of all, this is a brand of Christianity. This is not the end all. American Christianity is not the end all be all of Christian faith. African Christians look a particular, are particular people, Europeans and other parts of the world, different kind of Christianity, Asian Christians, different brand of Christianity. So it's important that people understand that this is not the end all. We are not the end all be all of anything. Yeah. But that's what nationalism would allow people to understand. Nationalism would have people think that we are better than everybody, that God puts us first, that God loves us more, that we are blessed because God just loves us so much, right? Mm-hmm. And the truth is, God so loved the world. That he gave his only begotten son. And so the problem, in my estimation, first, is that supremacy, white supremacy, colonialism has seeped into a brown book. When I say a brown book, the Bible is written by and for and to by brown people, oppressed people groups, people who are not lily white with blue eyes. Now that, those folks have adopted this book, consider it their own, and that's completely fine, because Jesus came for us all. The problem is that you use this book to then turn around and demonize the very people who wrote the book, right? So that's really what it boils down to, white evangelicalism, which today translates in a lot of ways as white supremacy, mm-hmm. Cloaked in Christian language, yep. Right? Nationalism, cloaked in all this fancy Christian language. And quite frankly, this is what we have seen exposed over the last 4 or 5 years at the top of our government. And I'll tell everybody where I am with that, and then I'll shut up and you can ask me something else, Tasha. But, it's less important to me that we have a prayer meeting in the White House. It's less important to me that we have the top praise and worship leaders strumming guitars in the White House and leading worship. It is more important to me what policies are coming out of that White House that are impacting who Jesus told us to take care of: the poor, the needy, the widow, the orphan, the alien, the stranger. Yes. So, listen here. If we're not doing that, God doesn't have time. Therefore, I don't have time for any of the pomp and circumstance that really translates into religiosity. I don't have time for that. God does not have time for that. And that is what has been indicted by a lot of people like me over the last 4 years. That is what we have seen. And God is not pleased. And I'm not either, just flat out. Anybody want to know if I've been happy about it? I have not been happy.
She said, just for clarity's sake, I am not happy with it. So you and I mentioned this beforehand. We're going to keep this one a little bit shorter. But so before we close out, I want to know where.
I'm okay. Let's keep going for like 15 more minutes.
Are you?
Yes.
Okay. So as we're talking about how Christianity and the Black community don't necessarily cross, this nationalist Christianity and the Black community don't necessarily mesh well together. Whenever we had the insurrection, there was an incident that occurred that had you fuming. And I don't know if you can recall what you had written about, but it was involving somebody very close to you and somebody, in essence, attacking that individual under the name of Jesus Christ, I guess, basically. I don't know if you remember it. And getting urine thrown on them.
Huh? Getting what?
They ended up getting urine thrown on them.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was something within the story. It was basically you had these terrorists.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So how I'm trying to phrase this in a way where we can kind of keep going from it. But how do we get away from this idea that the nationalists can use their Christianity to continue to oppress the Black community? Because you do have a lot of Black people who say Christianity was never for us. Christianity wasn't for us because Christianity is what they use to oppress us to get us here. Right. So how do we get to a place to where you can separate this nationalist Christianity versus this Christianity that you so love and adore and walk out every day?
Yep. So a couple things. For people who feel like Christianity is the white man's religion, I've heard that a lot throughout the years. I want to encourage you to read about St. Augustine, who is the Ethiopian church father. I want to invite you to read a book written by Dr. Antipas Harris. His first name is Antipas Harris. He wrote a book that came out recently addressing whether if Christianity was a white man's religion, and I can't remember the title, but look him up. You'll find his book. I think that really addresses it to the core. But here's what I think we're ultimately seeing, and then I'll try to answer your question. Prophetically, I really believe that we are seeing and the church as it has been dying. And what happens sometimes at the point of death is that a thing gives all that it has left. It gives all the fight that it has left before it dies. And I believe that the church is shedding a skin, and that's a scary notion to a lot of people who have been steeped in, that have very fear-based faith. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's a very scary notion. I've been that kind of person, and so I empathize. And so people who come from particular brands of Christianity are fighting up against the new thing that God is doing. But guess what? God will prevail. And so the thing will die. I just want everybody to know that the thing will die. The church, the way that we know it, the way that we've seen it in a lot of ways, is dying and will die. But the same power that raised Christ Jesus from the dead is the same power that lives in you and me. So we will rise again, but we will rise again differently. We will rise again better. We will rise again, not feeling like we've got to keep our foot on any particular group of people. We will rise again with a new sense of commitment to the work of justice in the world. And so the thing is dying, and that is what we are watching. If you know, that's my prophetic word on it. But how do we, so we don't have to save Christianity in any way from nationalism, because God is in the midst of doing that. Okay. But what I think has to happen is that people have to repent of the sin of idolatry, right? Seeing that we have lifted up one man, one institution, one country as a God symbol. And that is what a lot of American Christians have done. America first, never would Jesus repeat such a thing. America is not first with God. No. It's not, people. He loves us. Yes. But he loves everybody else around the world too. He doesn't just love, I'm gonna say something real funny for a lot of people right here. He doesn't just love Israel. He loves Palestine too. I know, just take a minute with that.
Girl.
Okay, he loves Palestine.
People are clutching pearls on that one.
Jesus was a Palestinian Jew. He loved Palestinian Jew. He loves Palestine too. So I don't think we have to go about saving anything that's supposed to die. It's supposed to die. But I think Christ is raising up in me and other faith leaders around the world, and voices like yours, Tasha, raising up what will be a new voice, right, for the church. And our job is to get in that river and flow in that, and invite as many people who will come to come. But I think the Spirit is at work. And always when the Spirit is at work, it's a messy thing. Always. There's always, Paul talks in Romans about there always been a war going on between the flesh and the Spirit. Always a war. You know, when something wants to live and it has to die, it puts up a fight, and that's what we're seeing.
Well, we have a question from somebody. So, we have Sassy asking, will there be another broadcast? This is deep. So, Sassy asked if there'll be another broadcast, because this is deep. So, I take these episodes and I leave them on my Instagram page, and I put them onto YouTube. So I will make sure that people have access to that. But I don't feel like this is our last time having a conversation, because I feel like there's way too much that's going on. I'm not one of those who runs around and throws out, my Christian flag first. I present me. And whenever we get into those conversations, that's when people say, "Oh, you're a Christian? Oh my God!" And because oftentimes if you lead with that, it's off-putting to people. Yeah, it scares them because they've been hurt. I mean, I think we all have, right? And I'm not the ideal Christian, but I walk around living my life every day, trying to make sure that I love people in authenticity, in a truth, in the way that I would want people to love on me, even catching me in my flaws and my frailties, and checking those things so I can be my best self. I try, so I have no problem doing it to the next person. But I really don't know what that's going to look like as far as me moving forward with, this podcast. But I know I definitely want to make sure that I continue to have people like you who I know exemplify everything that if I was given, a big fat crayon and some, elementary school paper, and able to draw out a picture of who I believe a Christian should be and who I believe this world needs more people of, it would definitely be a beautiful image of CeCe Jones-Davis, because I genuinely feel like you have always remained true to who you are, what you believe, and it has never, ever, not once for a moment, been harmful to who I am as a person. It never made me feel less than, as, don't do this. We're not doing it. Because, I'm a sap. but no, I'm serious. I genuinely wish more people would be that type of Christian, be those type of believers who have the heart and have the balls to be there for everybody, right? Yeah. So this is not going to be our last broadcast. This is not going to be our last chit chat session, because there's so much that needs to be said. There is so much that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And I need you. I need you. The world needs you.
You know, we need each other to survive. We really do. You know, this is a glorious and mean world, and we're going to only get out of it with each other. You know, you said something that was really profound to me just now. You talked about harm, and I've thought a lot about harm recently. I'll give a shameless plug for my album that came out recently. The album's called Alive, and there's a song on there called Harmless. And it says, I want to be harmless as a dove, not walking in pride, just seeing the best in everyone. And with all of the social turmoil that we've seen, the nasty racism, the craziness that we've seen here recently, that's been a revelation for me personally in the last couple of months, that if there's anything that I want right now my faith to exemplify, it's harmlessness. If I can go throughout my life and harm as less people as possible, I think Jesus will be pleased. If I can cause as less people as possible to feel bad about themselves, to feel shame, to encounter me and feel worse about themselves than when they entered my presence. If I can just keep if church history, if we learn anything about the negative, and there's been some good impacts of the church in the world, don't get me wrong. Yeah, yes. There's been equally, I would say, a lot of negative impacts. And if we look at church history and can learn anything, it's that I think keep our hands off of people. Keep our mouths off of people. Keep our culture, our idea about what's right and wrong and this and that off of people. Because when we impose those things on people, we have ugly evils in the world, like slavery. We have terrible institutions in the world, like the Indian boarding schools, where Native American children were forced to go to by U.S. government and Christianized by the Catholic Church. They cut off their hair. They beat them if they used their own language. They tore their culture away from them. If we look at the harm we've done in the past and we decide that we want to do something different, that differentness is harmlessness. Let's not keep creating harm on people. You know, okay, you don't like the way somebody live, don't live that way then. You don't like who somebody marries, don't marry them then. You don't like, that they put on a dress, then go find your own dress. You don't like they wear makeup, or they want to use this bathroom or that bathroom, mind your business and use the stall that you can use.
Girl.
Leave people alone. Leave people alone. And let's stop creating harm on people. Let's stop that. Because you know what? At the end of the day, everybody is made in the image of God. And we do not have a monopoly on the truth. We know what the Bible says, we know in part. We see through a glass dimly. That means that we don't understand everything. We're not 100% clear ourselves. Work out your own soul salvation with fear and trembling, and you leave other people alone. Leave them alone.
You obviously, the Bible inside and out, left and right, backwards, forwards. I will never, ever proclaim to know it to any level of what you do. But my statement is always that the one thing that I'm sure of is that I was called to love. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing that I'm certain of. And if I showed my love incorrectly because I accepted homosexuality, because I accepted my homosexual friends, I accepted, interracial marriages, or whatever the case may be, something that the church is not okay with, I will proudly stand up on my judgment day and say, but God, all I knew for sure was I was supposed to love them.
Right.
So I did that part because there was no doubt about that. I knew that undoubtedly I was supposed to love him. All that other stuff, if I was wrong for not speaking up against that, then hold me accountable. But
Right.
I felt it was more important for me to love them.
Right. And I think God will be okay with us. I really do. You know, there's a lot of things in this world that I don't know. I'm not going to tell you I got the answers on everything. I don't. But when I really feel like I don't know, I genuinely don't know, I don't think that we could ever go wrong when we err on the side of love.
Love.
We err on the side of love. I think God, the grace and the mercy and compassion of God sees our heart, sees our motivations, sees where we're coming from. But, you know, if we are operating in a lot of fear and we're operating in a lot of hatefulness and a lot of
Selfishness,
ignorance, you know, and we're hurting people in the process of all of that, God have mercy on us.
yeah.
You know what I mean? God have mercy.
That part I can't answer. You know, that there's no way I can stand up there boldly and answer for selfishness, you know, self-righteousness, control. I can't answer for any of that stuff, but I can answer for love.
Right.
So that part I'll do.
That's so good.
But CeCe, I appreciate you. I love you as always. Like I said, it doesn't matter how far apart we are and how long, you know, we go between talking to each other. I thank you for who you are. I thank you for the voice that you have. I thank you for always being supportive of myself and always erring on the side of love. So thank you.
And you have done the very same for me, always. You came over, I'll never forget, when I had to move out of Oklahoma. This woman right here came over to my apartment, helped me pack my books. She put on a roast in the oven for me so I wouldn't have to cook dinner. I mean, she's you're a ride or die kind of person, and I love that about you. I appreciate the way you raise your children. You raised amazing. I've watched them, you know, from a distance. You've raised amazing children. And it just really is who they are is a huge testament to who you are. And so I really appreciate the way that you just keeping on. You're thriving. You're working out. You're shaming me every day with your workouts. But that's okay because my Peloton is coming.
Girl, listen, I'm going to be jealous. I'm telling you, it's going to make it real hard for me to not take. Well, CeCe got a Peloton. I should get a Peloton in my room.
Girl, listen, we're going to figure out a payment plan or something. Because, girl, look, I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm watching you all the time. I love you so much. Thank you for having me tonight.
I love you as well, CeCe. So before we get off, go through it real quick. I want give us all of the places we can find any of your information for Julius. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
So people can find me on social media at CeCe Jones-Davis. CeCe, C-E-C-E. CeCeJonesDavis.com. Julius is at Justice for Julius on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So please go like and follow his stuff and become an ambassador yourself. Like his stuff, pass it along. The more we share, you know, the more people know about it, and that's so important. You can also visit his website, justiceforjulius.com. His sister, Sassy Soul, is in there right now. That's my girl. She be on top of the links. There she goes.
Respect it. I love it.
She be on top of it all. JusticeForJulius.com.
Okay. Well, again, CeCe, thank you so much. Everybody else who tuned in, thank y'all so much for joining. Make sure you go and check out all of the websites, and we will see y'all next week on Tuesday at 8 p.m.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.